I can imagine in the future where, for example, I mean, ChatGPT is a teacher and teaches the kid upon what meets them at the level where they are.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the message is personalized and the training is personalized and it becomes maybe more like one-to-one education.
That sounds really fascinating. Welcome back to AI Revolution podcast. Happy to be here, a wonderful audience, and happy to be here with Charlotte. Hello again.
Hiya. And today's topic, we're going to talk about AI and the education industry. And when I thought about this topic originally, I thought, are we just going to talk about cheating and like how students can evade cheating, etc. But then when I looked into this, I thought there's so many more aspects to AI and education, particularly on how AI is delivered like how we can now deliver education differently, say teachers, etc. in schools because of AI. For example, in terms of automation, tasks could be automated, like lesson plans, etc. And students can, instead of just blindly going on Google trying to find something, they could actually ask ChatGPT, etc. question. And there's so many different ways that now AI can influence education. And I mean, when I talk about education now, I mean for schools and universities. What about you? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, definitely. And because the name of the podcast is AI Revolution, so I definitely believe AI is revolutionizing the education. Because like you mentioned, okay, cheating, that's what first comes to mind. Like somebody's cheating their, writing their essay with it and they actually get great grades. But I believe we are moving to the direction where this sort of action is no longer cheating. Because, what's the point of learning all of those stuff if the machine does it better? So I think all in all, the role of human beings will change a lot radically, whether you like it or not. And the education must follow to the demand. So we are living in interesting times indeed.
The one area I think that it had an enormous impact is like what we call personalized education. So in the past, education has been a one size fits all, and the tutor stand in front of the class and it's given sort of teacher-led, desk-led education. I think it's referred to in Sweden, and not really seeing how the message has been received, and the kids or children have been at different levels, etc. But with AI now, you can actually much more personalize it, and so the algorithm could go in and see what the students have done in the past, what kind of challenges they have, and you actually have the student might give them more of a fighting chance because it can be personalized and tailored to the individual students.
Yeah. I think the school, what are the problems in the school system today is that it is not so much tailored to the individual, like you mentioned, that it's not, and we now have studies and evidence of these people who that some people just don't learn sitting still, and most of all children, and then they get diagnosed with these new things like ADD and ADHD. But how much do we actually know also about ADHD or ADD? Yeah, so how much do we actually know about those things as well? And if we had more tailored education, how much better would these difficult learners actually be at the end of the day? I don't know. What is your take on this, Charlotte?
Yeah, as being a psychologist that have studied this topic, I am very interested in this because, I'm also wondering about this labeling of ADHD and ADHD because it could just be that sometimes I think about when we think about children, we have a difference between gray and white matter. And as we grow up, so when we are young, we have lots and lots of different connections in our brain. And as we grow older, we drop more and more connection, which means that children aren't really going through, you can't really say that the 6-year-old is behaving one way and a 7-year-old other because it's very individual actually in the brain. that how we learn, etc. And you might find that some kids catch up later, and I can imagine then that maybe labeling of ADHD and ADHD might help, but actually we don't know really what's going on so much in the brain, and perhaps that better education system might actually catch these kids out. And I know, for example, today going to another area that kids are very into computer games and that sort of thing. And a reason for that is maybe because it's very shifting. Like if you look at YouTube, the attention is shifting,
Mhm.
and they maybe get trained into attention shifting very
Yeah.
quickly. So it means that the education system is maybe not hanging, it's not to that not up to a standard, but we're not doing that. It's not modeling that behavior, which means that maybe the kids are difficult to concentrate because that's not what they're seeing in their YouTube videos and games.
Yeah. I do agree, and the human brain is definitely not made for TikTok or
Yeah,
the short videos. It's like they even have now this kind of new diagnosis of TikTok brains of a person, a young child who cannot concentrate at all because they have used these changing
yeah,
videos all the time, which is just not normal for human brain,
yeah.
in my opinion.
But also it's also another form of the one of more positive side. We can see it as learning. Like so, it's not just that the brain has been trained to now uh,
Mm.
information in very very quickly. So it's almost become like a new type of learning. It's a bit like
Mhm.
addiction. You when someone is addicted, also you're training your brain to act differently to a new kind of stimulus.
Yeah.
So, but it means that maybe, or if these kids who have TikTok brain, maybe they could get a different type of learning. Then maybe we could use artificial intelligence to change the way they train.
Mm. Yeah, again, like we could actually find the gems behind this that
Yeah,
we see it as bad and evil and hijacking the children's brains. But when we actually have a healthy attitude towards it, how can we actually improve it and make it a good thing? Then maybe we can actually find the gems behind it.
absolutely. And we can, and artificial AI, personalized AI can maybe change and improve the education experience. Another area which I think it can really revolutionize is that, that we can learn from anywhere, and we can bring, so in the past, maybe if your kids are one day able to go to school, maybe this can really help and transform the homeschooling experience, AI, for example, and they might have access to more things they wouldn't have access to before. And yeah, and they can, it can be education from anywhere.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. I think there is many possibilities, and in my opinion, the only ensure things is that things change and the world changes, and when the world changes, I think the education system will definitely need to change with it, and it's already been the trend with the traditional education system that it quite, to be honest, hasn't kept up with the changing world. And because I have many friends who taken the school and said, okay, I learned more from listening to podcast and watching,
Mm.
reading blog posts, and then going to 4 years to bachelor's degree. And I think the education system has been the back foundation of our development, and it just needs to adapt to the situation.
And also, and maybe a side note is that I don't know, in the UK we have this back to school, and they've basically shown how the school system has changed through the years. So I always thought that you would go to school and sort of get a sort of,
Mm,
everyone be taught the same thing, regardless whether it was 1950s and 19s
yeah,
or 2000. But actually, this program shows how the education system were actually very much biased to what was regarded as important at the time, or maybe particularly in the UK, so that in the 50s, kids would talk much more practical education or going, maybe girls for cooking or that sort of thing, or physically, or and for boys like carpentry or physically education, whereas now it's much more social studies. And so it's you're taught what is important. But on the flip side of this is, of course, that now AI is important. So
Mm.
So maybe definitely, I definitely think artificial intelligence should be taught in school, but also that it is in that our AI is changing the way the education is delivered,
Yeah.
and even, I mean, particularly one way is also, for example, exams could be done differently, and they could actually be also tailored to the individual
Yeah.
students.
Yeah. And that is a fascinating topic. So, and since we are talking about education, and you have education on AI, Charlotte, so would you like to tell shortly about how did you come up with studying AI?
Well, so when I was a young person, I very much enjoyed watching a film called 2001,
Ah,
and
yeah.
in there
Can you
there was
tell
a
the audience, because maybe not all the audience actually knows the recognizes the movie, so
yeah.
maybe tell a little bit shortly.
So basically it's a science fiction movie, and it's sort of, it is a kind of odd. It jumps from different time frame, and but bits of it is, it's funny because it's like what it was recorded, I think, in 1950s or something like that, and
Mm.
it's them, their view of what they think the future will look like. But
Yeah.
they've dressed them in a time appropriate clothes as well. So it's 1960s clothes in the future. And I think it's, I'm not entirely sure. It's all about what is, how science, what the future will look like,
Mm.
and ideas about it. But one idea is that they have this computer who is controlling this spaceship or whatever, and then this astronaut, and his name's Hal. And in the end, he kind of, I think in the 1950s, they had a bigger fear that machines were going to take over the world, etc. And it was all about it. It was a film called War of the Worlds or whatever, that aliens would attack machine like aliens. And so in the end, how this machine, he kind of goes evil, become an evil robot. But he talks very human like to this astronaut.
Yeah.
So I thought it would that, not because of destruction, but I thought it'd be interesting to build something like that, a human robot that was intelligent and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And that led me to study AI and in Edinburgh. But we did, well, I'm sure we could have built out eventually, but at that time we studied actually things like machine learning and neural network, which was maybe a bit removed, but it was like the starting point. But at that time, they hadn't been able to build. The only thing that they had managed to build was like an insect-like robot that was behaving like an insect.
Yeah.
The humanoids they had built at that time did not resemble very much. Not like today; they're much more realistic.
Yeah.
At that time, they
Yeah,
were
exactly.
the more basic stuff. I did not build HAL yet, but like I got some way to building a better image of the brain now, at least. But I think for me, AI is always, I think I've always been fascinated about the future, and what the future will look like in the et cetera, and science fiction,
Yeah.
in films like Star Trek
Mm.
and Doctor Who, et cetera. It's also about, well, what the future will look like. And I mean, I've just seen the changes that happen in my life since I was, and it's been enormous. So I can imagine if I'm looking at my son, the changes of what is actually going to take place. I mean, to the school system, could we imagine that in the future, maybe AI could just deliver, like, you can download a chunk and then,
Mm.
not as a brain implant, but maybe education delivered into, maybe all virtually, and rather than old-fashioned school system. I don't know. I just some I mean, sometimes they said to me, the school system seems to be geared towards quiet girls.
Mm.
At least maybe that was the perception of school system in Sweden, that it didn't always fit boys, because boys tended to kind of be more rough and tumble, run around, etc. And also the idea that you sit still, etc. And I mean, it is changing, of course. Maybe the schools, my son too, I think they have more of group works, and it's not like when I was young, where most people were sitting in Rose, is that what your experience?
Yeah, and that's
The,
yeah,
where
that's
the
true.
teacher was standing in the front and giving a sort of universal kind of message, and there's hope that people would take it up. Whereas I can imagine in the future where, for example, I mean, ChatGPT is a teacher and teaches the kid upon what meets them at the level where they are.
Yeah,
And the
yeah,
message is personalized and the training is personalized, and
yeah.
it becomes maybe more like one-to-one education.
That sounds really fascinating because we definitely don't have resources to have 20 teachers for 20 kids. But when we are able to utilize this AI, we could definitely have this individual robot to teach each kid based on their level, which
Uh,
which in turn would be much more powerful because it's tailored for them particularly. Yeah.
there are, however, some downsides of using AI, and one is that it doesn't always produce quality content. Or one issue with, for example, ChatGPT, it makes up stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know, have you come across, I don't know if you use ChatGPT, but it does sometimes make up stuff. And I'm not entirely sure why that is, why it does it, because it doesn't have the content, or it tries desperately to produce. But there has been, for example, some legal cases where a lawyer used case people used some cases, recited some cases as evidence of something or another, and they were actually, there was something that ChatGPT had just created.
Ah, and
And
that's
so and so he kind of lost the case, or I mean, he lost his reputation as well, I think. But so that is a problem with it. It makes up stuff that is not maybe true, or it's meaningless, or it relies on predefined data, and so it might not be as original. Does that make
yeah,
sense?
yeah.
And
It's true. Yeah. So how could we? I think that is one of the biggest conversations right now about the AI. About is it biased or and is it giving false information and how can we get it fact checked and these sort of things. So I don't know how could we improve this thing.
well, I mean, it's some there is a in computer science a kind of phrase that's sort of garbage in, garbage out. So if we train the data on bad issues,
Yeah.
it's going to produce bad content. And also, it also depends how much we're training out. Like if we trained only up to 2021, maybe it's going to be less. Maybe we need more training material. Maybe we
Mm,
need to train it on the right things. And also we need to fact check. Maybe we do have prompt engineer. Maybe now we have a new profession called fact checking engineer. So
yeah.
a bit like what they do in newspaper. They used to do that. They used to have someone called fact checkers. So basically, we can have a new profession or an old profession that can be doing it's fact checking. Like, so in newspapers in the old days, every time a story went out, or I think they still do it. I'm not sure. Maybe now they are using AI algorithm to fact check, but you have to fact check all the resources.
Mm, yeah.
And that could be, that could be kind of a recipe or a way of treat that. Like we need ourselves to fact check the material, what, for example, ChatGPT produces, because it is making up stuff and it is making nonsense sometimes. But
Mm,
also there could be fact checkers employed, human fact checkers
yeah.
that
Yeah.
could check the content before, for example, if it's going out in teaching material. On the other hand, I mean, in teaching can always be, I mean, I remember when I was a student in the 70s, 80s, that we still had old textbooks. I mean, when we had old, even, I mean, word maps. And
Mm,
so
yeah.
it's not that it's a fair education always, it's like yes and a go, but this could be a way of tackling that. What's your opinion? How can we?
Yeah. My opinion is that we definitely need to keep the humans there, just like you mentioned, to do whatever fact check and tailoring for the people. But I think it would be much easier for this one teacher to just teach 30 children instead of having this presentation in front of everybody and trying to get everybody to learn. Instead, they have effective tools that they kill like the big picture. Maybe they teach it in front of class, and then everybody gets a tailored trainer from the AI. And then there is the teacher's role can also be to do some sort of fact checking and see that the robot doesn't get out of hands, so to speak.
One final topic I want to bring up, and I've heard this a lot, is about developing lazy minds. And this is it's the idea, I've heard it from a variety of this is that we don't need to think anymore, that ChatGPT can do all our thinking, and kids don't have to think anymore. I mean, this must have come up when the calculators came up, because I can imagine the older generation being aggressive about calculate. But that now we don't need to think, that everything is, and that critical thinking is becoming more important, and what we are fed, is this real? And you see this with advert now, we can't even tell the difference whether the thing is real or not, and the misinformation, but also the fact that we don't have to think. If the information, we don't have to write down things down. Now, if ChatGPT can create content, we become lazy.
Yeah, I think there is definitely a danger for that. And we were talking in the other episode about deep fake videos and all these ethical things that you can do wrong with the AI. So I do agree that we need to be more, critical, practicing critical thinking instead of just accepting things as a true per se. But I do believe that, it can even, if you really do it correctly, it can actually even increase your level of thinking, because if you get actually more advanced thinking. So let's say that you are, because in learning, what I learned in school and in my life is that every time that you try to memorize things, you actually don't retain the information. So let's say that the kid is learning multiplication, and then you try to memorize 2 times 4 is 8 and so on. But if you learn the pattern, okay, 2 times 2 is 4 and 2 times 4 is 6, and it goes to 2, 2, 2, 2, 2 upwards. And you remember the patterns, you will remember it better because you kind of remember the system instead of memorizing things. And the same thing if you try to learn anything, then learning how it works. So I think it requires much more thinking to really go to these creative things, whereas the AI can do the fact or whatever, the information. Like we have Wikipedia. If somebody tries to learn the encyclopedias, that would be memorizing, not understanding. But I think there's much more opportunities now to understand instead of just memorize things. But I don't know. What is your take on this, Charlotte?
Yes, absolutely. I was also thinking of another topic about, I think this will be our final one. It was about, so definitely I think that we still need our human brain. We still need going and as you say, rote learning or that sort of thing, that will help, because it can train, and certainly good for our neurons, etc., to keep our brain active rather than being spoon fed the whole thing. But another area which I've thought about, which although we now can deliver more personalized training, we can deliver more personal training in the home, etc., but it can cause lack of human interaction. And what I mean is that in terms of now we can keep even more kids at home, because they don't even have to go to school, because we can feed them, spoon feed their education. We can, but it kind of means that there will be even less human interaction.
Yeah.
We don't now even to go to the library, or we can get the whole library, and also we don't even go to the travel service. We can get ChatGPT do the travel service.
Yeah, and that's definitely true. And we were actually also talking in the other episode about AI and ethics. that would it be ethical for, AI robot to raise our kids? So I think in a
Yeah.
similar way, we could say, have a debate, will it be actually even ethical for AI to teach our children? And if
And
it
also,
is, the what point? So in terms of, values and things. So maybe mathematics, it will be awesome, but what about ethics? What about values, which is also part of school?
what about social learning and
Exactly.
and
Most of all,
and
yeah.
and also about, I mean, but there is already talk about the kids, because when we were young, maybe we were out playing in the park, or we were playing with each other or whatever, and now the child maybe is sitting in front of a computer, or doing computer games, and or do all the education online, and never sees any other kids, and in terms of social interaction, and how that child kind of is not learning, is not interacting with other kids, it's not getting the social learning,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
this can be taken for society. It could be same. AI can have the same effect on. We see maybe more and more people work from home, so we don't have the same
Yeah.
interaction, social interaction. It can change the way we socially interact, which could be a downside to
That
all of this.
definitely could be. I can totally agree with it. So for some reason, for me, school time was difficult not
Yeah,
in terms of learning, but I didn't have many friends. I was really shy, and I can see this development just happening. More the more we spend time with computers in the future and just glued to the screen. I can
yeah.
see them. I can see this needs to be risen. This.
Funny, but I also had a
Um,
bad school time, but it was more to do with that it wasn't the I was bored by the materials,
yeah,
because it was meant very much that everyone was supposed to be spoon-fed the same material,
yeah,
regardless
yeah.
of your level. But yeah, so hopefully AI can have a downside, that it can make social interaction more difficult, but on the other hand, it might be able to help students so they feel less left behind. So does that make sense?
It does make sense, and I think just good topics to raise,
Yeah.
raise on the
Um,
conversation,
yeah.
like you mentioned.
Okay, viewers, do you have any views on this? So please email us or contact us on our channels,
Yeah.
and the conversation can continue online.
Yes. Keep the conversation going and go into Instagram AI Revolution 44 or then our website AI podcast online. So we would love to hear more about your insights about AI and education. Like, subscribe, and follow. And most importantly, share this episode with someone who might benefit from it. And let's carry on the conversation in the comments and in our website, aipodcast.online. Your feedback and insights mean a lot to us. Thanks for tuning in, and see you again in the next episode.